So I would like to start, and as you can hear, there's a bit of an accent, so I hope I'm not insulting anybody because I'm trying to pronounce this in the right way. So if correct, Jingri means hello, correct? Did I not say you're not a nice person instead? All right, so I respectfully acknowledge people of the Ugambi language, Ugambi, I will learn this one day, I promise. Ugambi language region, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, and pay my respect to their elders past and present and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. So I'd like to start and acknowledge that, which I think is beautiful, and we don't have in the country where I'm originally from, which is the Netherlands. So short intro, for those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Marlie Jolanda. So I am a meaningful marketing business coach, entrepreneur, working with the Gold Coast Innovation Hub, practicing the ski skills tonight, and I hope that you will allow me to hold the space for all of you to ask some really powerful questions to our amazing panel. So I'd like to introduce our panel. On the left, we have Wayne Gerard, Chief Entrepreneur and co-founder of RedEye Apps. Give him a warm welcome. Then we have our talented Sharon Hunneybell, previous general manager of Opmantek, which was acquired by Firstwave in January 2022. And we have Shannon Overs, onPlatinum, the beautiful venue where we are today, acquired by Comms Group in February 2022, and the current CEO. Thank you for hosting us as well. So if we look at what we're going to do tonight, and this is kind of important to check if we're in the right room, right? So who's here to actually learn something new? Who's keen to at least earn a few million by selling their business? And who's here just because we got free nibbles and drinks? That's cool, we can do that too. All right, so we'll be asking some questions today to our panelists, but also we'll ask you to have a think about the questions that might really help you. We have a really exciting vetting process. So the moment that you have a question, we come and check to make sure that it's aligned with what we're going to say. Don't be afraid, we actually do want you to ask these questions. So have a think about anything that might help you on your journey that we can ask these amazing speakers tonight. Is that okay? Cool. All right, Danny, let's go to the next slide. So this is what we do like at TED presentations. When the clicker isn't working, we do this. But if it's not obvious enough, we're just like that. So at least we know. So I'll just go, Danny. But we'll get there eventually. A little bit of housekeeping. I believe the summary of it, just be mindful that you don't harm yourself or others. That's kind of the summary of it. But if you'd like to go to the toilet, it's just around the corner. If there's any fire, follow the signs or follow me because I'll be out in a sec. Cool. That's housekeeping. Then I was really wondering, back one sec, Danny. Question. In terms of Australia's innovation hotspot, we got 3 cities, right? Sydney, Melbourne, Gold Coast. Who believes it's Sydney? Who believes it's Melbourne? Who believes it's the Gold Coast? You saw the slide! So the Gold Coast Innovation Hub has actually been recognized as the innovation hotspot. So I would like to honor that, also all the work that you've all been doing together, because this is a teamwork, right? This is not just one company. This is us coming together to make the Gold Coast a hotspot. Who needs Silicon Valley when you have the Gold Coast? Honestly. So me personally, I lived in 4 different countries and I traveled to 30. I believe this is the promised land. We got amazing weather, we got palm trees, and we have every opportunity under the sun to grow and scale our businesses. So thank you for being present with us tonight and having a look at what we can do to make this number even more impressive. This one was a really exciting project, and my first question will be to ask Sharon to explain this awesome pop poll.
Okay. So we were.
Does it have a light on it?
Light on.
Yep.
You hold down for a little while.
Hold down for a while.
10 seconds.
Yeah, you had it on.
We can look at the stats in the meantime. Have a look at the left and the right side where we're at, right? A little bit less than 5 years we're looking at now.
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you? Oh, here we go. It's working. All right. I won't turn it off again. I thought it was making that noise. Okay, so we thought we'd have a bit of fun because we were looking at the main statistics for the Gold Coast, and obviously we know there are more small businesses and more ABNs registered in the Gold Coast than in any other city in Australia. So we know that there's a lot of entrepreneurial activity, but what about the growth? So what we did was we did a really quick snap poll of some of the companies that we were working with back in 2017 to see where they're at today. And so these are the stats that came back. So this was just a 48-hour thing. So there will be a lot more than this. But from the ones that came back, we can see that on average, most of them had around 8 full-time employees back in 2017. They now have more than 20. The average annual revenue back then was $280,000 a year. They're now averaging $5.2 million a year in annual revenue. And the average amount of capital raised per startup was $390K. We're now up to $2.5 million. So there's some massive growth in the startups that are here. And obviously we're talking today as well about the exits that are now starting to occur as well and what's going to happen next. So, yeah.
So my background, I started my career at BMW Group. So you can imagine what it's like in a big corporate. Who worked in a big corporate? How long does it take for them to actually follow up on any decision making? Like we had to go to the general manager, to the director, to Germany, to freaking the end of the world. It took at least 2 months to be able to change anything. Now I'm hearing we're getting results, people to follow up within 48 hours. When it's your business, you decide. It's pretty cool, right? So if we look at what's happening, so the Gold Coast tech and innovation ecosystem is booming right now. And also, not only is growth everywhere, but have we been aware that we've actually had several major exits in the first quarter of this year? Several. So this amazing panel is going to give us a little bit of insights on that. So what we would like to do is start with our panel and some questions. What we want to do is involve you as much as we can. So we'll ask a few questions and we would like you to also get involved. So I'll ask you when you have any questions to put your hand up, right? So to start, may I ask this amazing team to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what your business represents. So we'll start with Wayne.
Oh,
or Shannon.
Shannon,
This side. All good.
Yeah.
A little bit about yourself and a little bit about the business.
Okay, well, I'm born Gold Coast, so born and bred. There's very few of us around, but I love the Gold Coast and where I live, and thought, that what better place to start a business. So I started my career, I'll say career, straight out of school, uneducated, or when I mean uneducated, not going to university, as a contractor in IT. I'm an IT guy, and then moved into corporate for several years, and then started this business in 2012. It didn't actually start as an IT business. A lot of people don't know that. We started as a marketing company of all things to accountants and financial planners. But, in the first 2 years, we realized that if we don't pivot, we're $2 million in the hole. So that's what we did. And then we pivoted into a different industry and got momentum. And here we are today. So what this business stands for is we provide IT support to other businesses. Everyone has a requirement for IT systems, whether it's private, public, cloud, IT support, security. That's what we do.
Powerful.
So
Awesome.
really excited to be where we are, and got a grand plan to do more. So
Great. Thank you for sharing with us tonight. Also, who has used that word and implemented it over the last 2 years? Pivot. Love it. All right, Sharon, explain a bit about you and the business you're representing tonight.
Sure. Well, most of the people here would know me as the CEO of the Gold Coast Innovation Hub, but I'm actually here tonight representing my role in Opmantek. So I joined Opmantek back in 2014. I was employee number 12. And Opmantek is makes network management and IT audit software. So we make the software that companies like onPlatinum use to be able to monitor the infrastructure and IT services that they put in to other businesses. So yes, I joined. I had a wonderful experience scaling Opmantek into 130 countries around the world. And then we exited at the end of last year, but it was finalised at the start of this year. So, which was wonderful to do the full circle and get ready to do something new.
Yeah,
Awesome. I've got one of these, so I'm lucky.
One moment, allow me to interject on that one. So I remember you mentioning the full circle. So that was the first company that went full circle through the hub, correct? Is that kind of what you mentioned in terms of full circle?
Well, I mean, Opmantek largely powered the hub, I have to say. A lot of the experiences that we learned or that we had through building Opmantek became a lot of the knowledge that we started sharing with other startups through the hub. So yes, I mean, Opmantek was our first anchor member, I guess. But certainly it was instrumental in the forming of the business.
And also to prepare people a little bit how much is involved, right? Did you get any time off over Christmas, or was it 24-hour working for this acquisition?
Yeah, no, we didn't get a break at all.
Just so you know,
But
it's worth it, but there's a little bit of work involved, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. I would love to hear about you.
Hey guys, I'm Wayne. I'm currently Queensland's Chief Entrepreneur. I'm also the co-founder and CEO of a tech company in Brisbane called RedEye. I founded RedEye with a mate of mine in 2012. I founded that company because I have an engineering company. RedEye is my 13th company, to put it into context.
Did you say 13?
13th company.
Awesome. Anybody else who has 13 companies?
So I've learned a lot of lessons and got lots of grazed knuckles and lots of scars on my back. Anyway, I founded RedEye because I have an engineering company as well, and we were working on site up in Bowen, and we kept on getting given the wrong engineering information. We went looking for a solution, couldn't find one. Spent 4 months talking to heaps and heaps and heaps of potential clients about what they did to manage their engineering data, realised there was a gap in the market, decided to solve that by building really the first enterprise cloud-based solution to solve engineering data management. We took that to market in 2012 when cloud was a dirty word, right? So when there was no mobile applications in the enterprise. And we were BHP's first cloud service provider. At the end of 2012, we got our first contract with BHP. And so that was our first customer. We scaled. Today I have about somewhere around 90 staff there, give or take. Here, the US, New Zealand, and the Philippines. We've just raised our 5th round of capital, closed 2 weeks ago. So we've raised about 30 plus, 33 million or something, I don't know exactly, over the last almost 10 years. And yeah, our clients are large utilities, power, water, mining, oil and gas, critical infrastructure really. In June last year, I was asked to be Queensland's 4th Chief Entrepreneur. I've been actively involved in the startup ecosystem since it was nascent. Right back in the beginning, there were 4 or 5 of us that started getting together in 2011, 2012, and starting to help each other. And from there, we grew from 4 or 5 people helping each other to a community of amazing people doing amazing things. And you're all part of that community today. Over that period of time, Advanced Queensland was really unleashed by the current government. The current government's invested about $750 million into accelerating our innovation ecosystem. We have a number of people from the government here tonight. Put your hands up. Come on, quick. Put your hands up high. So we've got Ange and we've got Gigi, both from the Department of Innovation here. Give them a big shout out because they help a lot. So give them a clap. Right. And then we've got my team from the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur, Sarah, Sandy, and Heather up the back there. And really my role is to champion the innovation ecosystem, to bring the ecosystem together. For me, I'm putting the customer at the center of the ecosystem. So we previously invested, like the previous chief entrepreneurs, spent a lot of time focusing on building startups and building momentum in the ecosystem. The ecosystem now has momentum. And so my role is to really pivot the focus of the ecosystem onto how do we solve really meaningful problems? How do we unlock customers, not grants, customers for startups? Mm-hmm. And how do we build really scalable, really sustainable businesses here in Queensland? How do we take that slide that Sharon's got there and in another 5 years' time see the average number of employees being 50, right? And the average capital being raised as 15, right? And people like all of us who have successfully grown and scaled our businesses and exited, right? What's the impact of us recycling the wealth that we've been able to create back in to fund the next generation of innovative Queensland companies? And so that's what I'm really passionate about.
Super powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Sharing is caring, as you can see on
Yep.
the t-shirts, one of my favorite quotes. I agree. So indeed, the Gold Coast tech and innovation ecosystem is booming, as you mentioned. So today we're going to deep dive into growth and exit phase of a startup. Would that be helpful for your businesses as well? Also for the people at home that are tuning in on our live stream, if you have any questions, please message us so we can also ask this amazing panel. If the tech for whatever reason isn't happening, because that happens as well in a hybrid session, we'll follow up later, but definitely share your questions because we're here to help you as well. So our panel features the representatives from two Gold Coast technology companies, so Opmantek and onPlatinum, that were acquired this year in multi-million-dollar deals. Kind of exciting. Then we also have the chief entrepreneur himself, Wayne Gerard, that scaled his business RedEye Apps into 6 offices globally. Thank you so much, panel, for sharing with us tonight, and welcome.
Thanks.
So I would like to continue with our next exciting question. This one, I believe, might be quite applicable to Sharon and Shannon. So how long did you think it would take to exit, and how long did it really take? She's like, you first.
Yeah, good question. I suppose when you sit down and you start a business and you sit down every year, and I do it on a yearly basis and plan, life, legacy, operational, those sort of plans, what they look like. My projection was to 2030, and that was based around a couple of factors. One was a financial number and my age. So I'm only 42, and 50, I was 2030. So that was my focus on. Cool. What am I going to do as a business to get to that? And like I said, the first couple of years were tough, but you got momentum over time, and your first customer go, yay, second customer, and then I picture. I remember we used to sit around with butcher's paper and work out who we're going to talk to next week because people didn't want to deal with us. But we got momentum there, and I suppose once that momentum picked up, it just multiplied.
Cool.
And year on year, able to hit target on target in terms of financial numbers. And then the opportunity for us came on our doorstep because it was a hot M&A market, and people are running around with checkbooks with silly money and doing all that stuff. And we have dealt with that for years. There's probably a month that went by, every month we would receive a letter or someone canvassing wanting to do something, and one day we just said, let's see where it goes. So, and that's where we got to. The time it took was March last year. That's when we said, okay, let's do something. We gave someone a little bit of money to go and put together a prospectus on the business, and then it was full on from sort of May through to December. Excitement, tears, stress. Going into Christmas thinking it was done, it wasn't. Popping champagne 3 times in a row. The first time it didn't happen, the second time it didn't happen, the third time it was like, well, that was a fizzle. But and then I think we settled end of January. So yeah, pretty. But that was a short, compressed. So now, as an inflection point in my life, literally those 4 plans are in the bin. I'm going to redo them, and part of what I wanted in terms of my legacy for the brand of the business and going forward to make sure that I continue building the business to get to an even higher objective than I had before. Cool. So I've still got a 2030 objective. It's different, and I've got the support of a public company behind me, and still doing what I love, caring for the customers. So
I think we should give an applause for that. Well done. So you got your plans essentially pushed forward, correct? Because your initial goal was 2030, and now you managed to at least sell by 2020, but you still have goals to get the business to another level.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So the opportunity now is to take the number we had for 2030, got compressed, and we're able to do it in a quicker amount of time, in my opinion, and then look for an even more aspirational goal with the support of another company around us. And that is to go national with our base being the Gold Coast. And that is written into our actual contract and agreement with the new business.
So that keeps you accountable, right?
Is move or relocate from the Gold Coast.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
it keeps you accountable as well to go, this is what we're promising, this is what we want to do.
Absolutely.
And they buy into that dream as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They just want us to do what we've successfully done for several years. with their support.
And I also love to hear that you actually mentioned to continue doing what you love. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, I guess it's funny because I guess the acquisition story is quite similar with Opmantek, because again it's a Sydney-based publicly listed company that's acquired a Gold Coast company for a number of reasons, but one of them being to have a presence on the Gold Coast and to maintain a team up here as well. So, but I guess for the question on how long did it take. So Opmantek, so Danny Ma, who was the original CEO of Opmantek, when he had always had this vision of kind of trying to bring together a group of investors around a tech project and kind of scaling something from the Gold Coast. He's talked about it from the minute that I met him, he was talking about it. And I do know that when those first investors came on board and invested, we did have a 3 to 5 year exit plan, and that was, I guess, still in place when I joined the company. We'd always thought, so we had a free open source product, and then which a lot of people were downloading. We had a download every 6 minutes, was the most general stat, and so we thought we'd be able to create some little modules and things like WordPress that people might pay $20, $50 for, swipe their credit card, upgrade, and off we'd go. But the reality with Opmantek was that when we actually got to understand who our customer base was and who was downloading our products, they were big companies. So we had large enterprise companies that were downloading our software, and so we weren't a WordPress. We were competing against big names, IBM, HP, and so our whole market changed. Our model had to change to an enterprise sales model, and an enterprise sales model takes a lot more time. It takes more hands-on, face-to-face nurturing. So it did end up taking a little longer. So we went from that 5 years to 10, but it was still worthwhile.
For how much did you guys sell?
62 million.
I do remember indeed you highlighting that it was a very strategic move to buy a company with a Gold Coast presence and therefore establishing a footprint over here as well. So I guess people starting to recognize that we're the new Silicon Valley and everybody would like to live here, right? Awesome. So if we look at our next question for all of you, I'd love to start with Wayne. So what milestones were instrumental on your journey to high growth and acquisition?
Sure. I might start by sharing a bit of a story about RedEye and how we scaled. So we founded the company in 2012. In 2013, we got inbound inquiries for our product from Hong Kong, Peru, and South Africa in 1 week, and we were doing no marketing. And so we're like, holy gosh, we've kind of got this solution to a problem that's relevant in more industries and more geographies than we realized. And we made a decision then to go and find a board, right? So put a board together that could help us scale the business, right, globally to take advantage of the opportunities. So I went looking for months to find a group of people that would be really, really good board members. I wanted someone that had the voice of the customer, someone that had grown a software company from Queensland and listed it, and someone that had grown a software company from Queensland internationally and had done a trade sale. I wanted to put that kind of expertise around me. I got those guys together in early 2013, and I think it was 2013. Yeah, 2013, and I couldn't afford to pay them, so I allocated 2.5% of the equity of the company to each of them. And the day I got them together to meet each other, to make sure that they shared my values and to make sure that they could work together, I wanted to create a board that would help me, the founder, be a better founder, help me grow into a CEO, help me scale a business globally. And the day I got those guys together, they literally offered to invest. And so I raised my seed round that day, $500,000, and wasn't asking for it, wasn't even looking for it, was a bit shocked when they offered it. And it was a great start. I then went on to raise some money in 2014 from Macquarie, Then I raised again in 2017, 2018, and just now. And I was lucky enough in 2018 to have a partial exit. So I was able to take some money off the table. And myself and my co-founder were able to sell some of our shares because the round was oversubscribed. What that allowed us to do was remove the pressure. And that's a really important milestone on the growth journey for any entrepreneur or any founder. You put your heart and soul into your business. I didn't take a salary for the first 2 years. I paid my staff full noise. I didn't take a holiday for the first 5 years, all that kind of stuff. And
so who can resonate with that, guys?
Yeah, right.
Have you had that as well?
That's real stuff, right? And my house got flooded in 2011, and we had a big bill and all this stuff. Life was, it was a hard road. Yeah. So being able to pay some money off my house and remove that pressure really allowed me to reimagine what my business could be, and gave me the next set of runway. And so lots of lessons along that journey. One of the big lessons for me is if you can take some money off the table that removes the pressure or reduces the pressure so that you can be really focused without being stressed about the externalities, make sure home's safe, make sure the family's looked after. That stuff's as long as you see that as empowering, that's a really powerful opportunity.
Thank you, very powerful. And thanks for sharing that as well. Sharon, what was what you would consider the most instrumental milestone in your journey to high growth and acquisition?
The first major milestone is always your first real customer. So for that, it was
Definitely.
Telmex.
Yeah.
So it was an international customer straight off the bat. So basically our product suite was built around their requirements to begin with. And then once they were built out, then it became about finding similar companies that had similar problems that we could. Yeah. So I guess that would be milestone number one, would be that first customer. Milestone number two for us was a pivot from selling our software licenses as a one-off purchase to actually moving to a software as a service model. It was tough to make that shift, but it fundamentally changed the business. And I guess then the third one was hiring a CEO in Silicon Valley to actually make it an American-led business to be able to drive the amount of activity that we were seeing over there. So those three things kind of were the three main things that I feel when I look back on the journey that really shaped.
Powerful.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing as well, even with what Wayne is sharing with us, is that it's very important to surround yourself with the right connections as well.
Critical.
Awesome. Very powerful. Thank you. Shannon, same for you. What were the main milestones for you?
There's a few, but probably from an operational level,
yeah, you're right.
is when you've got a few. I'd probably say
Put your chair down.
Getting customers is probably the key, and you always get the run rate sort of
a bit too high. I'll just sit here.
I just kept spinning every time I
Obviously, you need customers. You've got a product or a service.
Yeah, it's critical, right?
We were fortunate, I think, because...
I'll join you. Can you still see us, Martin? Sorry for interrupting. Let's start it again. Customers first. What's next?
First. Obviously, you create a product and service, and then hope people want to buy it.
Yes.
And we were fortunate because being born in 2012, I coined it. We were born in the cloud, so we were essentially starting a business after a different model where everything was delivered as a service. So you've built a recurring sort of revenue model from day one, and you didn't have to go through that fundamental shift of going from a time material or a one-off sort of cost model to change, which is about 9 to 12 months sort of pain. So getting those customers is key, and we were getting the run rate customers, but we always had a target for those what we call transformational customers. We had 2 a year. So our target was every year we were to obtain 2 transformational customers. And those customers are ones that are going to make a significant impact to the top line and the bottom line. And they're the big fish.
Yeah.
So having those targets are key, like first customer BHP, boom.
Yeah.
So, you know, that I think is probably the most, or one of the pivotal moments. The other one is from a business owner perspective and stress level, because you've got the financial burden of 80 employees getting paid every fortnight or whatever it is, and you know, is when you're running an as-a-service business and your recurring revenue tips over what your salaries and operating expenses are. And there's a lot of relief, and COVID is a good example of that sustainable model through that. Because as we know, a lot of businesses suffer, but when you've got revenue which is greater than your actual cost, you can sustain those sort of impacts on your balance sheet for a longer period of time. So I think they're probably two things which give you a bit of relief to say, okay, well, you know, we've got there. We don't have to worry about how we're paying the bills next week. So, and obviously customers, you've always got to have a target of, yep, we've got our bread and butter everyday customers, but who are those big ones that are going to make a substantial impact to the top and bottom line? Yeah.
Very powerful. So I'm also hearing that we're recognizing key targets to make a real difference. So also for everybody in the audience and online, consider, would you like to have 2 transformational clients every year? What is your target to really make a difference in your own growth, scaling, and the potential to exit, right? So also, just to check in, also the people online, please comment in the, wherever we're streaming, in the chat, who already has a solid exit strategy in place? All right, I think we're gonna need some help.
Right.
Who would like to have a solid exit strategy? Awesome, that's great. So let's get some answers on that one. Thank you for sharing. So the next one is, did you leverage any government programs, grants, or support? And did anyone help you with those? So I'd love to start with Sharon on this one.
I'm quite sure that Opmantek leveraged every single service or piece of government support that was available, or at least considered it. There are a couple of ones that we didn't do. We didn't do accelerating commercialization, but I can run through. We got a investment attraction grant from the City of Gold Coast to start here. Then we started claiming R&D tax incentive, EMDG. We got an Ignite Ideas grant. We did the Knowledge Transfer Partnership grant. We did, which are both from Advanced Queensland. We've had some grants from the small business. So I think we had a business growth boost grant. No, we didn't. We had the top one, the small business growth grant. We did the entrepreneurs program with the federal government. We used the landing pad from Austrade in San Francisco when we set up our office over there. We had a Go Global grant from TIQ. Everything that was available to us, we made sure that we took advantage of, because that's what it's there for. You know, there's so many wonderful services that are just there, especially when you're exporting. Yeah. There's a lot of support for you to move into other markets. So, yeah.
So I believe people would be very keen to get that support. Can you tell us, when you say available to us, how can we learn about it and where can we find some help with that?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I mean, we always try and act as a little bit of a signpost at the Innovation Hub to guide people to what is available. That's one of the joys of having done it all and accessed it all. It's like, oh, I know what you need, this one. And also, you know, we can provide a little bit of feedback as well on what worked and didn't work for us. So I guess that's one way. Otherwise, you're just going to be Googling. No, you can, there is actually a wonderful resource now. There's the QI Hub. Yep. So for the Queensland government, you can log on to the QI Hub. They always are listing and updating different opportunities, accelerators, all sorts of things on there.
And or Ask Ange.
Or Ask Ange, that's right, yes.
Wayne, can you share a bit more about that as well?
Yeah, sure. So we basically did what Sharon did. Yeah. And I think you should see that as a couple of data points, right? The more you leverage these grants, the better off your business will be. Why? Because you have to go through a process to be thoughtful about your business as you're applying for these grants. And that process you go through will help you to think through some of the next major milestones you need to achieve and how you're going to achieve them. And that will give you a bit of a plan about, okay, what roles do I need and where am I going to attract those people from and what clients do I need to do? And then the reporting for some of these programs also keeps you honest, keeps you on track.
Accountable.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
which is really valuable. So I really encourage you to apply for those. The R&D tax incentive is one of the best programs the Australian government has, and it's a unique differentiator globally. Really, really valuable part of your capital growth strategy. So if you're not thinking about how you apply for the R&D tax incentive, you need to. And good documentation is core to that, which again helps you to mature as a business because your investors want you to be mature. They want you to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed, and things like that really help you to scale as a business. So I'm a big believer in getting access to those things where you can. I think some of those grants are far better for you than taking investment, right? Because they are way cheaper sources of capital, right? That's one cheaper source of capital. The other is getting really great clients and making sure that you have very few bad debtors, because that's another really good source of capital. And then your payment terms with those customers is really, really important. So the better your payment terms, if you can get them to pay annually in advance or whatever, that will unlock more opportunity for you as a business. And
assist with cash flow.
Exactly,
well.
which is critical.
So what we've learned is that confusion leads to inaction. So if we're not sure where to get this, if it's worth it, how much time, energy, can we give a little bit of feedback around the stats of the success around applying for these grants? Is it the majority of times you get them, or how much time does it take? Can we prepare people a little bit to go, all right, some might take hours, some are quite easy, or depending if we can get some help or not?
I would say the Accelerating Commercialisation grant is the hardest grant to get. It takes a lot of effort to get it, and there's quite a small pool of allocated companies each round. So you need to really understand your uniqueness if you're going to apply for that. There's no point applying if you already have revenue as well. You need to apply pre-revenue. I made that mistake. We applied, and by the time we got through the process, we already won our first customer. That was an expensive investment in effort, right? But it still paid off in some ways.
It's almost like applying for awards, isn't it?
Yeah. If you talk about GG...
Ignite's about 20%
yeah.
success rate.
So,
Wow.
yeah, so there's, we have Ignite Ideas, which is one of the state government funded programs under Advanced Queensland. We get hundreds of applications for every round, right? And obviously we just don't have that big a bucket of money. And there are so many amazing companies applying today that, the success rate isn't, it's not super high. That doesn't mean the people that don't get the grant don't have good companies. That's not what we're saying, right? We're really, Ignite Ideas is really focused on igniting companies that are born global, right? That have global potential. And so I think these guys will share with you that as a founder of a business, you really want to do three things. You really want to make sure that you're solving a problem that is really valuable, people will pay for. That's the first thing. The second thing is you want to make sure you're solving a problem that is not the core business of an 800-pound gorilla, because they will squash you, right? If it's their core business, right? If it's an ancillary, one of their product lines, go for gold because you'll beat them every time. And the third thing is you want to create a business that solves a problem globally, right? If you're going to invest your heart, your soul, your energy, your passion, right, into building a company, you may as well build a company that's got the biggest total addressable market, TAM, right? Every investor wants to know how big is the total size of the market opportunity. How much could this make me, right?
So is that what they mean? We go big or go home?
Yeah, exactly.
What is your experience, Sharon?
Look, I agree with everything that Wayne said, but the other thing that I wanted to point out is just to make sure that you actually meet the criteria of the grant. Like that's the main thing. Like I have lots of people that come in for support, and the fact is that There's different grants set up for different phases in your business and different purposes within your business. You don't want to create your business around a grant.
No way.
Whatever you are applying for should be to push your business further. And you just really have to be aware of which department is offering this. What are their objectives? What do I need to do to make this a success for both the department and my business?
Definitely.
And that's kind of how you up your chances of success.
That's cool, because I know there's a grant coming out again, round 3 for 5,000 for small businesses, to simply make sure you check all the boxes, because else it's direct no. And another tip people gave, which I thought was interesting, use words that the government loves. I thought that was interesting. Specific question for you that I know you can help us with. What IT support and infrastructure does every business that wants to scale need as cybersecurity? And becomes a bigger threat to growing the business?
Gee, I don't think you need much. We've evolved into a thank you for that, into a world where you can go and buy and consume things by the hour, for cents, sometimes dollars. When it's private or public cloud. In terms of when it comes to security, I think it's critical that you don't think you're the expert and leave it to people that do live and breathe it every day. And in a lot of cases, good security, you can be covered for a cup of coffee a day in terms of the investment. And as probably the biggest thing and failure I see in a lot of businesses that don't take it seriously is the reputational damage that is caused from a cybersecurity incident. Most businesses can recover the data if it's, compromised or so on, but the biggest impact is what happens after, because you've got to consider the people that you're wanting to deal with, and if you're thinking about going global and wanting to get significant companies, they want to deal with companies that they trust, and they know that there's not that supply chain risk involved in dealing with them. So, cybersecurity is easy to solve. When you're starting with a blank piece of paper, it's difficult when you've got complex systems, but always leverage subject matter experts on the basics you should do from the outset.
And we've got a stack of them here in Queensland. We've got a stack of great cyber tech companies, so you can get access to local experts. You think about your reputational risk, and most companies, depending upon your target market, if you sell to consumers or small business, you can probably withstand one major cyber breach, right?
And that's like your final warning.
Yeah, one, right? If you sell to enterprise like I do, I'm dead. One major cyber breach and my customers will leave. And I manage all the engineering information for Hoover Dam. So put it in context, right? One of the most critical pieces of infrastructure globally. To get that, to get that contract, we had to jump through a million hoops, and we have to jump through a million hoops almost every other month to sustain our customer base. So yeah, it's a really super critical topic, and as you become bigger, you become a bigger target.
So that's really important as well, because I believe that the majority of us don't consider cybersecurity as the sexiest topic. So who has already implemented serious steps to make sure their cybersecurity is on point? Well done.
Good work.
What is the next step that people could take to go, I haven't done that yet, what should they do?
Just to carry on from that question, I think the compliance around that isn't necessarily driven from your business, it's from your customers.
Yeah.
So as you deal with different customers in different vertical markets, they have compliance requirements, the bigger they get, and they might be governed by ASIC or another regulatory body. They will enforce those upon them, and they will have to enforce them upon you. So you've got to be prepared for that and ahead of that game.
So security of critical infrastructure is a current government policy that's coming in right now. Anyone that sells anything to an organisation that's deemed to be a critical infrastructure organisation, there are now 11 industries covered by that act, right, have huge and increasing compliance requirements, and they will push that back onto you.
Powerful. We got a few more awesome questions. I would like to ask the audience if they already have a question. Is there someone who has a question already? Have a think, because else we'll move on and then we'll give you another opportunity. You get a few opportunities, so just be prepared. So may I ask you, Wayne, the role of chief entrepreneur is voluntary. Why do you, as a scale-up founder, think it is important to contribute to the broader ecosystem, and what can other scale-up founders do to contribute?
Great question. I founded RedEye in 2012, and I purposely wanted to build a software as a service business because I thought recurring revenue streams, that commercial model, was a really sensible business model to build a business around. At the time, there was no startup ecosystem, and one of the things I could see was the benefit of building a local ecosystem and how that would create a new set of opportunities in industries for our kids. The reason I took on the role as chief entrepreneur is because I cared deeply about our kids' future. I want, like, who's got kids out there, right? I want our kids and their kids to have an amazing standard of living. That's what it's really about, and that won't happen unless we build industries and create companies and create jobs and become examples, right, of what's possible. And so for me, that's why I've taken on this role, and that's why I'm focused on putting the customer at the center of the problem so that we can help more companies scale, help more companies become successful, create more jobs. I've got 4 priorities as chief entrepreneur. First one is to help our existing industries become more competitive and sustainable by partnering with emerging industries, by partnering with local Queensland entrepreneurs, researchers and innovators. So let's build emerging industries that solve our existing industries' challenges. Let's make sure the regions are not left behind. I believe and we know that innovation can be started in any shed, any garage, any family room, any kitchen bench, any place. Why not start it in Roma, the Gold Coast, Dalby, Chinchilla, or wherever, right? I want more people founding businesses in Queensland. So one of the things I like to say is it's our job. So put your hands up if you're a parent. Come put them up high, right? It's our job to change the dialogue. Right? It's our job to change the dialogue at home. It's our job to stop asking our kids what job they'll get. It's our job to start asking them what problem will they solve and what business will they build, right? Because that's going to change the way we think as a society. And so I'm doing things as the chief entrepreneur to create the opportunities so that you can fill the gap.
Powerful. Right. So as we may recognize this quote, I believe it's from Simon Sinek. It's not about, people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. So you shared your why now, and what I'm hearing is that you would like to instill in our future generation as well, why do they want to solve a certain problem as well? Powerful, thank you. Also, what can other scale-up founders do to contribute?
Build amazing businesses that solve really important problems, and from as early as you possibly can, be inclusive with who you hire. So give kids their first job. Employ people that want to transition from other industries into this industry, right? Try and find really amazing people that are immigrants that, because they don't know anyone, they don't have a network, and they've ended up taking a job driving Uber or working in a cafe or working somewhere, and recognising their talent and help them to get into the ecosystem. As founders and entrepreneurs, we are the decision makers, right? Our teams often feel like they have to play by the rules, right? And sometimes they perceive there are rules that don't exist.
So we make the rules.
We do make the rules.
I remember one of the most powerful things Sharon ever said. We were talking about an idea and we said something along the lines of, it doesn't exist yet. She says, well, then we create it.
I love it.
That was really cool. Thank you for sharing. So talking about the ecosystem as well, and I'd love to start with Shannon. How do you see the tech and startup ecosystem on the Gold Coast and across Queensland evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
It's just a great place to live.
Look into this magic ball.
I mean, look out the window. I mean, this is a great place, and we've got an office in New South Wales in Sydney CBD, and it is full on. So I travel down there frequently, and we don't have an office in Brisbane, but Brisbane to us is a business hub, and it's 40 minutes up the road. Yeah. So I think I recommend just the location being key to attracting talent and great people into the business, and the people make the business. So, we did from the early days, the people that were involved at the beginning of the business, equity participants, gifting.
Yep.
them because they helped make the business successful. So that's probably a good tip. Get the right people involved, get their buy-in. You know, if you give away a little, you'll get a lot in return. So that's one of the key factors we
What do you think, Sharon?
The next 5 to 10 years. Okay. Well, I've always got a bit of a vision for the Gold Coast, and I guess what I noticed a lot during COVID was how much closer Australia got to the rest of the world. You know, we can now do a deal and sign on the dotted line over Zoom. Before, there was always an expectation that you did something face to face. So I guess my big vision for the next 5 years is for the Gold Coast to become like Australia's gateway to Asia and back. So I would love to see all the startups that are over in Southeast Asia that are looking to move into the Australian market to see the Gold Coast as the best entry point. So that's what we're gunning for at the Innovation Hub. As a broader view of the overall ecosystem, you know, we are now seeing these companies that are growing phenomenally. That was only a small sample of some of the business growth that we've got here. It's so much larger, and I'm going to do a big job of gathering more data in the next few months so that we can put it out there. So what I see now is, so I've joined the board of the Gold Coast Angels. And I want to see more angel investment activity happening locally here. So that's a big vision that I have. The next thing that I really want to see is I feel that as companies are growing and maturing, and then obviously and then exiting, I think it's a really important time to refocus on grassroots. There's a lot of activity that was happening at a grassroots level about 10 years ago that has sort of dissipated a little bit. And I really think we need to start looking at that, really supporting the youth, so young people to start businesses. And again, I love that idea of the people that are wanting to transition into tech, you're creating those opportunities for them too. So I think that grassroots participation, getting your hands dirty, finding the talent, finding the new technologies and driving them so they become the new normal is also another sort of phase that we need to take on now to be even bigger and better in the next 10 years.
I love that. Thank you. Allow me to add on to that. So people in the room, either you are already and you'd like to create more wealth. Who's keen to become a millionaire? Do you know that on average you need about 7 different income streams to do so? So we looked at those opportunities, and being an angel investor is one of them. And it's so cool to be able to put some money. It doesn't even have to be that much to get started, because some people go, oh my God, I need at least 100K to invest. I think you can get started around 10K for you to put some money in a business that we can help our ecosystem boom and something that you could really believe in. So definitely come along to one of the Angel Investors Nights as well. Thanks for sharing. Wait, I'm really curious to hear your answer on the future as well.
Wow. I'll start with, I'll work from the bottom up. I think our universities over the next 10 years will become more focused on curriculum and courses that graduate innovation-ready employees and founders. And I think that's really, really important. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I think we will continue to see the startup formation. So the number of new startups formed in Queensland, I think we'll continue to see that accelerating year on year. The third thing is I think we'll see the amount of investment available in Queensland really explode in the next 5 years. We're working at the moment to unlock almost $1 trillion worth of investment that currently sits in Queensland. So
that's a lot of zeros, guys.
There is $1 trillion of investment in our super funds here in Queensland. And if we can unlock even some of that and direct that into early stage investment, it's going to power the next generation of our economy. I think that we're going to see the disbursement of knowledge and skills into regional Queensland. We're going to see regional centres become more mature as it relates to innovation. And that's going to be really, really helpful because it's going to enable family units to stay together. Just like Shannon said, he was born here and he wanted to stay here. There are people born in regional Queensland that have to move for education and have to move for jobs. I think we're going to see great case studies and examples of where those people have been able to stay regional and build amazing businesses and create jobs and create economic opportunity. So I'm really excited about that. And then lastly, the Olympics. The Olympics is the single biggest opportunity our state has had in an enormous amount of time. And so how do we unlock that? How do we unlock the Olympics and maximise its potential for us as Queenslanders, for every Queensland company? I think if we can get that right, it will create a legacy for our economy and our society that will last generations. And so that's one of my passions.
I believe that's another event we ought to attend to indeed consider how we can unlock that, because there's plenty of people that are keen to get involved, so that's a great one. Thank you for sharing. Another thing that we have picked up, which I thought was very interesting, as you can imagine, the property market is quite saturated now.
Yeah.
So the government is quite keen to invest in business incentives to get people to indeed to do more in business, which is also what they do with angel investors, to go, you put in a certain amount from investors, and then we double that dollar for dollar, right? So that's kind of a good incentive as well. Then, has that been helpful so far, everybody? Interesting? So the last question from our end, and then it's really over to you guys, so I hope you're ready for that. Thank you so much for sharing all this so far. We would love to hear from each and every one of you. There are a lot of early stage founders in the room and online tonight. So if you could give yourself one piece of advice that you have learned on your journey from idea to exit, what would it be?
Start there.
I think you've just got to keep going. I mean, persistence is a
Resilience?
Yeah, resilience. And I coined it. You've got to wear out the leather on your shoes. And I remember, and I look back at some of the things that I did, which are quite crazy. You know, walking up and down the street, knocking on every business because I was able to sell something to one. I decided to walk the entire 1 kilometre street down in Burleigh Heads, actually. Because I had poor internet, and I was able to sell fibre to one customer and managed to sell fibre to 5 more. So I think that resilience, and you know, you often go home and wake up the next day and what am I doing? But you know, you get back out there and you just got to be persistent, and sooner or later, people will deal with you. And it just, once you start getting that momentum, that'll spread if you do a good job and deliver a great service and solve a problem. They will tell other people. And you know, our business was built around that social interaction with other people. So our entire marketing strategy is built around getting people in a room. That's why we literally have this room here today. So tomorrow we've got, for example,
Exhibit
a lunch where we're just inviting 35 people
Fantastic.
for lunch, and they'll talk to other customers and other prospects, and sooner or later one of them will do more business. So you've just got to be persistent.
So law of reciprocation, generosity.
Absolutely.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think
Thank
that
you.
makes sense. Thanks for sharing.
Gosh, one piece of advice. Okay. I think I've got 2. So one was Danny's motto. All right. So when we were building out Opmantek, he used to always just say to me, like, the number one thing is to love your customers. So if they're the ones that are creating your business. So you know, work with them, find out what they want, and continue to build great relationships with your customers, and your business will always grow. The other one, I guess, is kind of in a similar thing, but it's a little bit. So the other thing that my own piece of advice to myself is never leave a meeting without next steps. So too often I see people that go out and they have meetings with potential customers or potential partners, and they just have the meeting and then they walk out of the meeting and there's no agreement on what you're going to do next. And I think those next steps are just so vital, and so many people don't do that. So that's my other little nugget, that if I had have turned around to myself back when I was first getting going, doing my first customer meetings, I would be like, whatever you do, set a next step. Get the next meeting, get the next phone call, get the piece of paper signed, whatever it is. Yeah.
I do remember you sharing an example even that faith is a big thing as well. And when you go into a meeting going, I'm going to get a signature on the dotted line, you will not leave that room until there's a signature. So
set your intention.
You're right. Powerful. Thank you.
All right, so 1, 2, 3, because I can. The first one is...
It's good to be the chief.
Exactly right. The first one is just remember you're not alone, right? There are so many people that have walked the walk you're doing now. The challenges you're facing have been faced and solved. So yes, it's tough when you're in the moment, but build your peer group and build a network of people that you can have honest, authentic, and genuine conversations with, because that peer group is essential for you to keep a sane mind on your journey. So that's the first thing. The second thing is team. Build a great team. Like if you want to scale, you cannot be the bottleneck. So you must build a great team. You have to invest in your leaders, you have to invest in your line managers, you have to empower them, you have to challenge them and train them. And if they're older than you, younger than you, left of you or right of you, it doesn't matter. You have to be their coach, their mentor, their champion, their cheerleader, their shoulder to cry on. But you have to build a great team, and you have to empower them so that you can literally scale. You can't do every sale, you can't do every tweet, you can't do every post, you can't write every proposal, you can't do every project, you can't do it all yourself. So the sooner you realise that in order to be successful, you have to build an amazing team, the better off you'll be. And the third one is, I forgot, so there you go. You got off.
So thank you for sharing. Allow me to share a very powerful coaching technique with you, which you can actually use in any client meeting you'll ever have. So you would finish the meeting asking, is there anything else? Yeah. Because that is an opportunity for people to share if there's anything that they're unhappy with. Or so for you, audience, is there anything else? Please put your hand up if you have any questions. I know at least one person there to ask a question. Here we go. Chris. So we'll grab the mic. Here and the lady over there as well.
Thanks for the panel. This is really quite interesting indeed. Thanks for everyone in the room.
Introduce yourself.
My name's Chris Booth. Thank you, Wayne. Chris Booth from 42 Ventures, initiative between Gold Coast Innovation Hub and Angel Loop. I've got a number of questions, but we'll keep it to the short one. I get the feeling most of these companies started around 2012. Firstly, were there any macro kind of things happening in the economy as you see it that brought these things to all happen at the same time? And two of the three have exited at the same time. And what's happening with Red Fox? When are you exiting?
So I guess I'll start by that.
And then we get the mic over here.
Yeah.
Smart
Yeah. So when's RedEye exiting? I don't know, right? Like the reality is that I'm building a business to scale, and I've got certain MRR metrics that I want to get to. And the faster we get to those metrics, the more attractive we become. We've already had stacks of offers, really genuine offers to sell the business or to buy the business. We're just not ready yet. And so we want to hit a certain milestone where the business is valued at a good valuation to return the right value to shareholders. In terms of 2012, I just literally started the business at a time when, where I saw a problem, right? And when I realized that that problem existed and it wasn't being solved, and I thought there was a bit of a gap in the market, and I genuinely believed back then I could disrupt the market, literally turn it on its head. Unlock value for the person that owned the value chain or the organisation that owned the value chain. So it was the right time.
Fantastic, powerful. 2012, so when I look back to the Gold Coast in 2012, I moved up here in 2009. We were still reeling from the GFC, and that still continued for a little bit of time. And I think that what naturally happens when you have a period of instability like the GFC, that you do see people starting to emerge from that, wanting to try something different, wanting to try something new, wanting to create a world that's more stable, sustainable. Here on the Gold Coast, we were severely affected by the GFC. We were very, very dependent, and we still are somewhat, on tourism, construction, hospitality, right? There was an opportunity, and this is what I saw, to be able to build tech companies that work across every industry, which would actually help to create some stability in the market. So that's what I was sort of seeing at the time, and I think that having gone through COVID, we could be seeing a second surge like that as well. So yeah.
So there's good coming out of it, guys.
Yeah.
There's hope. Fantastic.
For me, it was just an inflection point in life. And I actually I was in IT within financial services and went through an enforceable undertaking and a GFC from an IT point of view, which was interesting and also rewarding at the same time, because what we put together was able to withstand the scrutiny of when it came to data. But I suppose, 2012 and to the point is the diversification in being able to access different vertical markets is a key consideration for sustainable business. And you look at some of the things that happened with COVID, people were impacted more than others. And the ones that weren't impacted were the ones that were able to had a diversified sort of customer base. So we've got several vertical markets that we sort of focus on. But yeah, that's probably a key thing I saw within our space. And we're delivering basically a McDonald's style product or services in a repeatable fashion. Doesn't matter if you're a tech company, an accounting firm, a financial planner, a architect, a construction company. It's just the same thing over and over.
So that's powerful. Explain the McDonald's style.
Well, just making sure that you're able to produce a product or service that you can easily reproduce. And going into business when you've got a subscription-based model or recurring-based model, subscription, whatever you want to call it, if you're able to efficiently deliver that time and time again, it's very easy to have exponential growth over time. So
That's really
refining
great
that.
to have that even as inspiration to consider what are interesting movies to get some inspiration. Is the movie called The Founder around McDonald's and the growth of Ray Kroc, I believe is his name.
Absolutely.
We'll look that one up as well.
What do they say? Rinse and repeat?
Yep.
Yeah. As simple as flipping a burger.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Another amazing question over here. And Martin, can we check if we have any comments in the... Because else we can follow up later.
G'day, thank you panel. My name is Renee. I'm from Jonas Software. We are in the business of acquiring vertical software companies. So I'm just curious, more for Shannon and Sharon, if there were multiple offers on the table, how do you determine which is the best fit for your company in the home? There's the dollar value, which is what we're looking for, but sometimes there are other variables at play. I'm just wondering, was that a challenge for yourselves, and then what may have influenced the direction you took?
Great question, because essentially you're selling your baby, so you want to make sure it's going to the right parents, right?
Yeah.
I think it's okay for me to say that we were having conversations with other parties at the time. We're actually looking at, it was actually an international acquisition that we were, that was sort of in early stages at the time when this opportunity came around. For us, there was a synergy between the products, which we saw as being a great opportunity. We saw a great, I think that was probably the biggest one. And then there was also that, Australian company, they were happy to keep our Gold Coast base and our team up here. So it was just a good fit. I think that's the thing, is you do get lots of offers. You'll get things that are just ridiculous, and you'll get ones that you consider, and they'll get ones that waste a whole bunch of your time. But then this one just fit, and it's just the right one at the right time, I think.
I'm not sure how much you can actually say, but well, anyway, so I don't care. But it was an interesting process, and I'm an IT guy. Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, and going through the whole due diligence phase was tiring, but really interesting and rewarding at the same time. I think when I went through it, we had, and I'll give you the high level numbers, 30 interested parties. I think I did management presentations to 15. So that's when they've got a prospectus, and then you're presenting your business, and they've got their executive team asking you questions, or they've got advisors asking you questions, and you need to know your numbers. You need to understand every aspect of the business. And then that whittled down to about maybe 6, I think, where we had a couple of ridiculous, insulting offers. And not interested. And then there was probably, I think, maybe a few of them that were serious. and they wanted to talk more, and they had, you know, a couple of discussions. We did all this through COVID. Pretty much, I think only one party came to our office because the others couldn't. So it was all via video conferencing, and then that whittled down to I think about 4. But what I looked at, which was important to me, was the legacy of the brand and how we go forward as a business, and with a real focus on the care of our staff and making sure the acquisition just wasn't going to result in people being synergized into other systems or processes. So when we looked at the opportunities, we decided to go with a business that managed services in IT wasn't their core business. So a small cap telco, where they were looking to diversify and adding something new to what they delivered. So there was no threat to the people or the brand. Synergies are important to make sure they were understood even before you got to a sort of MOU or stage, because you want to make sure that, and I've been in both aspects of a business where they've been purchased and it's gone both ways. They've come in and thought they knew better and completely changed everything and ruined the business. And then the other method where it was quite successful. So making sure that they weren't just going to come in and change everything. That was really important. And it was really to make sure that the legacy, the brand, the reputational aspect of it, and the most important thing, the clients were felt like they're good in good hands going forward. And I have to say, after the one thing for me was a really nervous factor was, okay, we've got to go tell our clients. What are they going to think? Do they think I'm just going to like deserting them? So that was a really concerning and sort of anxious day for me. But every call after call, you said why and who you picked, and they understood and resonated with it, and it's how it turned out, which is really good. And to this day, yeah, there's been changes with synergies which are overall better for the group business. But yeah, the day-to-day hasn't changed.
Interesting. Also, if we even look at a bit of the numbers game, so you mentioned there were about 30 parties interested, about 15 presentations given, about 4 people you followed up on, and the one final one over a time span of?
That would have been from around about, I think, maybe September to November. The negotiation phase was really long. And I had, and go back to the beginning of this discussion, I said 2030. So we didn't need to do anything.
So you weren't in a rush at all.
I wasn't in a rush.
A few more years left.
So from I suppose, a business perspective, the heels were dug in pretty deep. We didn't need to do anything. So we made sure that every box on that piece of paper got ticked.
So you weren't coming from a place of haste?
No. And that's probably a key thing. And probably go back to your previous question, what is one thing you could do differently is get ready for it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably, and I go back to the beginning where we were approached, we weren't ready to sell.
Yeah.
We were building the business for growth. So we were literally spending money as we needed to spend money, and we didn't really care about the EBITDA or the bottom line.
It's like me with the credit card when I go shopping.
So yeah, like Oprah style, dollar bills everywhere, like just trying to build the business.
For you and for
but if we had a do-over, and we did sell the business on the basis that this is what it is, and in a lot of ways, getting coaching on that process is important, because the advisor that we hired to do it said you can't sell blue sky.
So back again to surrounding yourself with the right board, the right people.
They said it all came down to the numbers.
Yeah.
It all came down to what's on paper. I said, we're not selling the business based on the numbers. We're selling it on the potential and blue sky that's there. And that's what we sold it on, which is pretty exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? Do we have any other questions? Yes, over there.
I do have a question.
That'll be the last one for tonight, and we'll get a little bit more time to meet and mingle.
My name is Sharon Shah. Thank you for inviting Sharon and the panel. This is slightly a different question. It's not so sexy question. So it's about non-digital entrepreneurship. So
Sure.
as a chief entrepreneur, I'm sure looking at other businesses.
Yeah.
So I've just bought a medical practice.
Awesome.
Right? So I'm not solving a problem that you talked about that is not solved. It's
Yeah.
not going to go global.
Yeah.
Right? I do have a customer focus that I can treat them very well. So what's your advice for those businesses who are solving or continuing to promote or solve the existing problem that's already solved? How do they pivot and how do they make it big and successful? Especially in the healthcare sector where money is actually drying and the care demand is actually really quite high. So staff is stressed and sort of there's a serious shortage of nurses and receptionists and doctors. So given all that, how do you really make it workable, customer centric, and profitable? It's not about exiting; it's about continuing. Thank you.
What's your name?
My name is Sharon. Sharon Shah.
Sharon, really great question. There are a lot of businesses in traditional industries that are facing the challenges you're facing. The first thing I'd say is that traditional industry is and is going to be increasingly tech-enabled. And technology will provide you with leverage, additional capacity, the ability to redirect resources onto more value-adding and more important tasks. So unlocking technology to make your business more efficient is critical to your success. And unlocking that technology also provides you with the opportunity to target a broader segment of the market or a more geographically dispersed segment of the market, or go the other way and pivot into a part of the market that has the right economics, right? So in a SaaS business, we talk a lot about unit economics and what is the value of an individual customer, right? And how does that impact the cost base of your business, the performance of your business? And if you win more of a certain type of customer, you can scale more easily. So it's about being thoughtful and making good choices around how do you build a sustainable and growing business. The medical industry is being disrupted at an incredible rate. Who's recently got an e-script? Right? Like I literally got an e-script last night, at 9 o'clock. And so there are amazing opportunities in your industry right now. There is a segment of the population that is focusing more and more on their health span, not disease. And they want to increase their health span. There's an amazing amount of research being done on longevity. There are incredible breakthroughs at our universities here in Queensland that will be commercialised into the medical sector in the coming years. So I think your industry is really, really exciting. And as a doctor, you've got the ability to move more towards personalised medicine. And personalised medicine is going to unlock so much potential for us as a community and for you as a service provider and entrepreneur. So I wouldn't be concerned about the fact that you're in a traditional industry. I would be excited about the opportunities you have, and I would look to be an early adopter, right? Be an early adopter of some of the technology that allows you to target the kind of customers you want to target. Now, you need to go through a process to think about what that looks like. And a good place to start might be to go and speak to the hub, because they have business advisors and experts that might be able to help.
Powerful. Talking about the hub, who already has a business mentor? If you have an ABN and you haven't booked in one of the mentoring sessions yet, please have a chat with Sharon, because there's a whole package around that. I believe it's only $44, so that might be a really good start. So far, has that been helpful? I would like to ask our speakers if you have any final remarks.
I have one. Who are the entrepreneurs in the room? Right, hang on. Put your hands up. Okay, see that lady up there? Put your hand up, Sandy. Right? Sandy works as our communications officer and looks after, her job is to amplify what you do. Her job is to promote what you do. So we're running a campaign called 222 in 22. 222 business days. We're going to do 222 videos at least right? At least, sorry, Sandy, right?
Somebody help Sandy.
Yeah. Sharing your stories. So it's a chance for you to do a 2-minute video and literally say, this is my business. This is the problem I solve. This is why it's great to be an innovator, entrepreneur, business owner in Queensland. This is what I'm excited about. So tell your story and we will amplify that message out over our social channels.
That'll be a good collaboration with the hub as well, where you
Love
can
to.
help each other out.
Woo! Give her a clap!
Line up. Well done. Sharon, any final remarks for you?
Well, I've done my 222 for 22 video. I was lucky enough to have it released on International Women's Day, so thank you. I got lots of great feedback from it. So yes, I do encourage you guys to do your video, and so yeah, that would be great. Most of you are already engaged with the hub. Those that aren't and want to learn more about what we do, come over and chat to me or any of my team. We've got Danny who's hiding behind the screen here. She's been very patient. There's Summer who's sorting out platters, and we've got Debbie who's one of our board members here as well. So feel free to reach out to any of us if you've got any questions or if you need any help with your business. And over to you, Shannon.
Look, I don't really have any final remarks, but thank you for coming into our office for the event, I suppose. If you're ever in need of IT services, that's where you go. Yeah.
Love it. So in the end, would you agree that if you're not passionate about who you're representing in your business, then you can't expect anybody else to be either, right?
That is 100% correct.
That's basically
Yeah,
it.
it's a really good saying. You can't give what you don't have. And nor can your team. Your team can't give what they don't have. So if they don't truly believe in and aren't passionate about and don't understand the problem you solve and the solution you provide, there's no way they can communicate that to potential customers.
And I think from as business, you've got to do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
That's obviously key. You need to,
As a human as well?
as a human as well. And in terms of leadership, is almost be selfless.
Yeah.
As you're there to make your staff be successful, which will in turn make you successful. So I think that's a key takeaway. So thank you.
So that is the alarm. We would like to thank all of you. Yes, of course.
So I don't want to leave the evening for the next steps.
Yes. Next steps. Next
Is there
event.
anything else? Can I say thank you again onPlatinum? Unbelievable. This room is unbelievable. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm also one of the directors of the Hub. So coming up next with the Hub, we have the Techstars Startup Weekend, which we will happening in May, around May 20, I think it is, 20 to 22. And that is anyone who has an idea. So if you have a friend, if you have children, if it's you yourself that has an idea for a business, come to Startup Weekend and we are going to mentor you through a 36 hours of craziness and mentorship. You might be able to make a website by the end of it for your idea or a minimal viable product, like some kind of thing. That's coming up.
Any idea?
It just depends what it is. It could be, I don't know. And also in June, I'm actually in the middle of planning a mini summit where we'll have a breakfast. It'll be at Kumara TAFE breakfast. Speakers, our keynote speaker is Dr. Clarence Tan, and he has just pitched to the Gates Foundation in America. So just to hear his story, to his pitch over there, and I've got speakers on blockchain, NFTs and all that stuff, but how it's relatable to small business, because there's all these buzzwords and we don't know what they are, but it is all relative to small, medium businesses and big business. So that's it for me. Thank you
for sharing. That's also a good example. I'll just hold this for a sec. We were informed to be mindful to use the word small. So although we do recognize ourselves as small, we don't really want to be stuck in that. So indeed, growing and scaling businesses, we would love to see you along. Also next Thursday, who recognizes that their sales process is probably the number one thing that will help them grow and scale? Who is not a 10 out of 10 in that yet? All right, next Thursday, come along to the masterclass of the Gold Coast Innovation Hub. I believe we will follow up. I'm looking at Summer going. She's going to strangle me if I don't say anything about this event. Next Thursday is the first masterclass series, which is all around sales processes, how to improve your lead generation, lead nurturing, and conversion of those leads. Final remarks from us. Thank you so much for having you on the panel. That was amazing to share all that information. Also quite vulnerable to share, you know, what concerned you and also those milestones to go. So I believe that they shared amazing tips. So can we please give them a hand? And for you all to be here, thank you for our sponsors as well, City of Gold Coast and.
Awesome.
I don't want to miss any of the sponsors. How many sponsors do we have, Sharon?
Oh gosh, we've got all up for the
All
innovation hub.
for this event. For this
For
event.
this event.
Yes.
Was the Office of Chief Entrepreneur.
Thank
So
you.
Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, great. Me too.
And of course, onPlatinum for
Thank
providing
you.
the space for us.
So thank you for the sponsors.
Thank you to Parkway for food.
Yes.
And thank you
So.
And thank you to Paradise Distillers for the gin.
So thank you. As you can imagine, we would not be able to host these events without sponsors. Consider the importance for yourself to potentially become a sponsor. As Shannon said, which I believe is very smart to go to in-person networking events. A great tip for yourself, if you want to connect with any of the speakers, ask helpful questions. That could be a good one too. Come to these events and connect with these awesome speakers as well. Thank you and have a great evening.